The difference between the Nature's Pride Veg and Bloom is the Veg is sort of like an all-purpose. You know, it's higher in nitrogen, it's got a good source of potassium and phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, but it doesn't have as big of a boost as you would maybe want or need during the bloom cycle. So the bloom cycle drops the nitrogen down, we're increasing the phosphorus, potassium, and increasing the calcium and magnesium. Also, the difference between this and, say, the Veg is that this is going to be used exclusively in the bloom cycle. Week 1 all the way through week 8, you could be top dressing, or you could use it in your compost teas as a bloom boost tea, or you can drench it in. A frequently asked question about the Bloom is it soluble? So the Bloom has a lot of soluble components to it, but a good chunk of the Bloom can never go soluble because it's like made out of feather meal and biochar and fish bone and things that just don't really go soluble. So we say that you can drench it in by mixing it into water and then dumping it on your soil profile, or adding it to a compost tea bag, brewing it in your compost tea.
What makes your Bloom top dress different than some of the other Bloom top dresses on the market?
That's a good question. So I think we have an industry leading calcium. It's about 13% in the Bloom food and about 1% magnesium, so it's a pretty decent ratio. Also, we're diversifying the sources of the calcium. So we're not just using one source of calcium, you know, Calphos. We're using oyster shell, crab and crustacean meal, fish bone meal. So we're really diversifying all those micronized amendments to make sure that the calcium is as useful and utilized as possible in this formula. Most companies say, well, hey, you already have one source of phosphorus in there, or one source of nitrogen, or one source of, you know, humic. Why are you putting multiple sources in there and making the formula more complicated? The reason why we do that is because we feel like there's a lot of spaces in between in the organic amendments that people are missing. You know, they're just looking at the pure NPK or the pure elemental analysis, and they're really missing a lot of the things that these ingredients do. I mean, soy meal breaks down and has amino acids, right? And so sure, you can get something else that has that type of nitrogen added to it, right? The N is the same in different various ingredients, but feather meal is going to have more amino acids available than other types of nitrogen-based amendments. So we like to have a diversity of every type of NPK, macro, micronutrient.
Why are your NPK numbers so much less than the NPK of the fertilizers I'm used to using or have used in the past?
And that's a good question. So when it comes to mineral salts, they're highly concentrated. So, you know, when we're using these ingredients together, you know, feather and blood meal will have like a 12% nitrogen. Well, you know, urea can have a 50% nitrogen because it's pure nitrogen. Those are pure compound chemicals they're using in that kind of farming. The problem with using pure compound chemicals is that a lot of times they're salt derived or salt chelated, which tends to make your soil take a nosedive in the microbial world. So the more salts and chelated products you have in the soil, the less your microbes can survive. Specifically, high number phosphorus. So anything on the scale above 8 or 9 on the phosphorus points can start having a detrimental effect on the mycorrhizal colonization in the soil. So if somebody's out there selling you a product that's like a 2-20-20 and they give you mycorrhizae with it, you know that they don't understand the relationship between chemical fertilizers and microbiology.
And that's really what we're focused on here, is we're feeding the soil. We're building healthy, living soil. You're not feeding the plant directly as you would be with a mineral salt-based synthetic fertilizer. You're feeding the soil biology. It's called the Soil Food Web. Check it out.
And you know, one last thing to note there is that the difference, the analogy we give to people, the difference between feeding with mineral salts versus feeding with organics is that organics is like eating an apple and eating a full meal and having your body digest it with the microbes in the stomach and put the nutrients in your body. Synthetics are like getting yourself hooked up to a hospital bed where you have a bolus and a needle in your arm, and it's giving you everything direct fed into your veins of what you need to survive. So it just gets you to survive, it doesn't get you to flourish.